at all legal options, and we continue to analyze everything that we can in federal court. And that's the problem, is that the federal court has never been good to Indian communities, and we never have a successful record. So if we really want to fight this thing, it's going to take Oceti Sakowin to revisit the Constitution and constitutional law and treaty law. I think that's where we have our best chance, because if we continue to wait for the federal government, the federal laws, the federal court to rule in our favor, it probably won't happen.
Do you think President Obama will institute the...
We're going to go ahead and go with one question. Thank you, per person.
Hey Dave, Jordan with the Young Turks. I want to ask you, this letter mentions breaches of law by, as they call it, the protesters, such things as leaving garbage on the ground, such things as starting fires. There was no mention of the countless war crimes and human rights violations by the Morton County Sheriff, as well as private security. Do you think that was a deliberate, lack of putting that in there, or do you think the Army Corps essentially is looking the other way?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is be mindful of what we do, be mindful of who we are, to be mindful of where we're at and who we represent. And if there is garbage, what are we here for? We're here to protect the water. We should be doing what we can to make sure that this place that we're at is kept sacred. And if it's kept sacred, we could still continue to move forward. But as far as the North Dakota police and the state of North Dakota, they have unbridled power to use, and they use those forces against all our allies, and it's obvious. And the Corps of Engineers are not going to state anything like that. So we understand that, we know that that takes place, and we have the evidence, we have proof. So we're just going to keep moving forward, but we need to be mindful of where we're at and what we're doing, so that nobody can say that we're contaminating the earth.
Thank you.
Chairman Archambault, in your capacity as the chairman of the Tribal Council, are you in fact in the Tribal Council inviting the water protectors to remain on your tribal land despite the order of the U.S. Corps of Engineers to vacate? Is there an invitation being extended by the Tribal Council to remain?
What we have is a situation where safety, again, is that concern for everybody. And we know that where this camp is right now is on a floodplain. So we're doing our best to try to accommodate, and that's what we've been doing from day one. We do have a location that we're trying to establish for a safe place. And I understand that not everybody wants to leave these lands. This is a sacred place, ceremonial. But when there is the time, when temperatures are intolerable and unsafe, we need to have a place for our guests. We need to accommodate for them so that they're out of danger. And we are establishing a place just like that for the people here. And you know, we continue to, the Steinrock Sioux Tribe and Tribal Council continues to support and accommodate for all of our guests, and we're thankful and we're welcome for the support that it has, the awareness that it has brought. It's just been overnight it came to this. So there's no way that you can plan or do everything to assure that everyone is kept safe. So we end up reacting to whatever the situation is. What we're doing right now is we're trying to be proactive for when that situation comes, when there's harsh weather.
What do you think will happen to the camp if the Army Corps does arrive on the 5th and tries to forcibly evict people?
I don't think the Army Corps of Engineers is going to come on the 5th. I don't think anybody's going to. The Morton County Sheriff's Department, Morton County Police has they have jurisdiction, proprietary jurisdiction over these lands. Or whenever there's any crime taking place, we're not committing any crime. If the Morton County wanted to, they would be able to come in and remove us. I don't think that will happen. I don't think the Corps of Engineers is going to come in the 5th and try to remove us. What they gave us was a notice that these public lands are no longer available for hunting, for fishing, and for recreation. Recreation can include camping, but what we're doing here is exercising our First Amendment right, and we're not breaking any laws. We're not violating any laws. So for the Corps, they don't have a armed force or a military or a law and order branch. So they'll have to call in somebody else to come in, whether it's the U.S. Marshals or the local police. I don't think that will happen on the 5th. But what it does do though is it helps us start to think about mitigation for this area. If it was to happen, we need to be given notice, in advance notice, so that we can assure that a lot of the property is not damaged, is not destroyed, and I don't think it will ever be an eviction where forces come in and just push people out. They would give us notice, and I haven't gotten notice that there's forces coming. All I have notice is that these lands are no longer available for hunting, fishing, recreation. So we understand that. Now that reduces the liability from the Corps of Engineers, and it puts the liability onto the tribe. So as guests, we have to be mindful of what we're doing. We can't contaminate. We can't put garbage out there. We can't be punching holes all over the ground. We have to be mindful of where we're at and what we're doing. All of us, when we're here. And we just continue to stay in prayer and peace. And I believe that the Creator will hear our prayers, and I believe that, and I'm hopeful that the President of the United States takes action and doesn't leave his 8-year term with the disappointing the Native communities.
I guess I want to add on to what the Chairman's saying is that, I mean, suggested forced removal and state oppression, I mean, this is nothing new to us as Native people, right? I mean, we've been here before and we've gotten through it. We got this. I don't think that the purpose of this letter, my personal thoughts is, these are just intimidation statements. These are things to put us into a reactionary space, and we refuse to be a reactionary space. Like my brother Nick Tilson said, we are not victims in this situation. That this movement that you see behind us, that this movement that you see across this world was built out of power based on indigenous rights, based on our struggle to defend our rights as indigenous peoples and our ability to self-determine for ourselves what happens to our land, what happens to our water, what happens to our bodies. That's the core of this movement. And so we stay focused on that. We don't want to get stuck in, we refuse to get stuck into the reactionary about the what ifs and what that, but we are going to be mindful and be prepared for what may come and run through the scenarios. And I agree with the chairman. I think we all agree that what the letter was not like we're going to raid on this date. It was just a notice, and we just are mindful of that. But we are staying here committed to our prayer, the original intent of that fire that was lit, and understand that this is a movement that is based on the principles of the Oceti Sakowin, the 7 council fires of the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, Oiani. And that those principles, that fire is what's guiding us through. And it's that commitment and our faith in that fire that's going to get us through this, and that we're going to beat and stop this black snake.
We're going to take 2 more questions here.
Does this mean that the veterans are still scheduled and planned to arrive here between the 4th and the 7th? Is that still scheduled as planned?
As far as we know, yes.
Yes,
The veterans,
it is, and the last RSVP count that we got for the veterans that are going to come here is 1,500 veterans coming. Right here.
So, from what I can tell, the whole world is watching. How important is that to you, the non-native people that are here and the support you're seeing from all over the world? What do you have to say?
Well, I'm not non-native, so I guess I can just speak to the fact that as a youth and as someone who represents future generations, who is 7th generation, I can just say thank you for finally seeing us. A lot of people don't, and I'm grateful every day when I wake up and I look out